Hey, welcome back to week 3 of building my Christmas mouse house, and this week we finally get to paint and wallpaper the inside. My inspiration for this project is Twas the Night Before Christmas, specifically the cartoon with the little mice that live inside the clockmaker's house, as well as this storybook version that I grew up reading. Now, in the cartoon, a big plot point for the mice and the people is fixing this particular clock that's broken. So the first thing we're going to do is replace the clockworks. Then I'm going to paint the entire back side of the door and the back of the clock panel a slate blue. And then we're going to go into the inside of the house and add wallpaper. So let's get into it and start by fixing this clock. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is to take out the existing clockworks. I'll replace it later, but after I've painted the back. I like this blue on the background of the clock face, and it actually reminds me of the blue paint that we used in our family room. It's called Jamestown Blue by Sherwin-Williams, and I have just a little bit left in the can, so we're going to go ahead and use that as the backing for the clock and the backing for the door. The back side of the door is completely primed, and a smarter person than I would probably tape off the hinges and the little magnet catches right there, but I'm not going to do that. I like to live chaotically, so I am going to use my foam brush to cut in all around those edges and then use my roller to fill it in. While I'm waiting for that first coat to dry, I'm also going to go ahead and paint some of these spare balsa wood pieces and little bits of trim and coffee stirrers that I have. I have an idea that I might use this color on some kitchen furniture, so I'm going to go ahead and paint that while I have it out. So now it is time to go ahead and restyle the new clock hand. I have some directions here as well as the new clock part. And I'm going to go ahead and try to reuse these old hands. But if it doesn't work, they did also send some of these as well. So we shall see. Okay, moment of truth. Let's put our battery in. I'm just going to use this dial here to set it to the current time. It is 8:23 right now. I guess backwards is technically faster. I'm really pleased I was able to save the original hands. Not that there's that much of a difference between these and the ones they sent. I just happen to like them better. Okay, so we're looking for 8, 20, 3. So that's about right. There. I love it. All right, I found some wire brads here that are just a little bit thicker, but not too thick that they could cause the wood to splinter on either side. So I'll fill in these last 3 holes and we'll be good to go. And look at that, just keeping time. Clearly about 20 minutes have passed while I try to nail this stinker back in, but I think it's worth it. This is really cool looking. Ta-da! So for this project, I decided to design my own Christmas wallpaper. I made it myself in Canva using just some designs that I liked that had a Victorian feel to them and copying them to get that repeat. This is what I settled on for the living room. This over here was an early try. I thought plaid wallpaper would be kind of cute, but I think it's a little too busy for me. So then I designed this one. For the kitchen, I like the kind of Scandinavian look of this print. And this was originally also kind of Scandinavian inspired, but I thought when I printed out some test papers, I thought it looked a little sparse. So I went back and filled in the gaps in between. And I really like the look of that much better. And then for the upper room, I picked a damask pattern. And I just dyed it to match the same color green as is in the other wallpapers. And now I'm going to print them out on this. I have some of this adhesive backed paper. So basically it is a regular sheet of printer paper, but the entire thing peels off and becomes a giant sticker. So that is how you make your own peel and stick wallpaper. Look at that. Now, lucky for me, my rooms are all going to be about 8 inches tall, and this printed out about 8 inches tall, given the margins. Also, I just think these patterns turned out really cute. So let's start with the bottom floor. To fit it in at the edge, I'm going to cut off this little bit of white space, but I'm going to leave the bottom on as a guide. And for this middle piece, I'm also going to cut off the other side. You'll see why in a minute. Now comes the fun part. I get to just peel the backing off of this. And then line it up in this bottom left. So see, because this is just a little bit more than 11 inches wide, I'm going to need to patch a little bit. And I've decided I'm going to patch on the right side for each of these back sheets of paper. Now I'm going to take this backing and make a template for this side. So see, by just pressing, I got the exact dimensions I'll need to cut out for this little magnet catch right here. So now I'll take my next side, making sure up faces up. I don't want all my bouquets going facing down on the side wall. I'll go like this. I'll lay this on top of it and cut out exactly what I need. So now I've got my wallpaper where I cut out with my template. Let's check to see if it fits. Like a glove. And the pattern even matches up right around the corner there. Flush right there and right around the magnet holder. Now, I am not going to videotape me putting in the rest of the wallpaper because I have to get my head really in there, and unless you want to watch a time lapse of my gray hair, that's not really exciting. But I will come back on to show you how I patch these parts on the right. And yeah. So now we're back to the end of this wallpapering project, and I'm going to show you how I cover up these little ends right here where the wallpaper wasn't quite long enough to fit. I have some scraps from where I cut out the sides right there and there. So I'm going to line this scrap up right there. I can even overlap it a little bit. That actually works pretty well. And then that will go ahead and meet right there in the corner. Now, the other thing I'm going to do before I lay this down is take my sheet of paper that will go on the adjoining side, and I'm going to line up where this meets on the paper and cut it. And we'll see that before we lay anything down, these already match up really well. So I can go ahead and put that down. And then when I trace this on my template and lay the side piece, they'll line up perfectly with no gap in the corner. There we go. Now, I'm not worried about these tiny parts where the paper doesn't completely line up, because no house, big or small, is completely square. What I am going to do in the next few weeks is I'm going to add these molding strips right around the top, and I'll level these out to make sure that they're perfectly straight. And those will serve as both the moldings at the top of the rooms, as well as the support for each floor. So that's how we're going to do that, to make everything nice and square and looking finished off. I love how this turned out. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you'll subscribe, and I'll see you again next week.